weren't just warriors. They were legends who terrorized kings, burned empires, and defied the gods. From Ragnar Lothbrok to Leif Erikson, these were the most feared Vikings in history. The name Ragnar Lothbrok echoes among the greatest figures of the Viking Age. He was likely born in Denmark or Sweden in the 9th century, the son of a farmer, but he soon became an unstoppable force. According to the sagas, Ragnar killed a giant serpent with clothes soaked in tar and fire to win over Lagertha, a fierce shield maiden. He married several times and had many sons, all of them great warriors. Ragnar sacked England, devastated France, and reached the gates of Paris with few ships, but with strategy to spare. When he was captured by King Aelle of Northumbria, he refused to kneel. He died thrown into a pit of snakes, but his death was only the beginning. His sons swore revenge and invaded England with one of the largest Viking armies in history. Did he really exist? It's possible that Ragnar is an amalgamation of several real leaders, like Regin Harris, who sacked Paris, and other Norse chieftains, but there is no concrete proof of his existence as a single man. Still, the legend shaped the entire Viking Age. Bjorn Ironside. Son of Ragnar and Lagertha, Bjorn inherited his mother's bravery and his father's ambition. He was called Ironside because he seemed invincible. He commanded a monumental expedition through the Mediterranean Sea, a rare feat among Vikings. He reached Italy, sacked Pisa, and fought Islamic forces in North Africa. One of the most incredible stories says he faked his own death to be carried into the city of Luna, disguised as a corpse. When they opened the coffin, Bjorn emerged, sword in hand, and conquered everything. According to the sagas, he founded the royal lineage of Sweden. Did he really exist? Yes. Historical records confirm a Viking named Bjorn who attacked France and the Mediterranean in the 9th century. The theatrical part with the coffin, likely an exaggeration, but the leader, real. Ivar. The boneless Ivar was one of Ragnar's most feared sons, born to the seer Aslog. Called the Boneless, many believe he suffered from a condition like osteogenesis imperfecta, but this physical fragility was compensated by his strategic genius. Ivar was the brains behind the great heathen army, which invaded England after Ragnar's death. He led massacres, occupied the city of York, and humiliated Saxon kings. His cruelty was renowned, his gaze calculated. They say he felt no pity, only a thirst for vengeance. Did he really exist? Yes. Ivar appears in Anglo-Saxon chronicles as a commander of the Viking army. The nickname Boneless could have a literal, symbolic, flexible, or even ritualistic origin, but he was real and feared. Leif Erikson. Leif was the son of Eric the Red, the Viking who colonized Greenland. But he went even further. Hearing stories of lands to the west, Leif sailed into the unknown and reached North America around the year 1000. He named the land Vinland for its abundance of grapes. There, he built camps and made contact with native peoples. His journeys were recorded in the sagas as great deeds, which were only proven centuries later by archaeologists. Did he really exist? Yes. Leif Erikson is recognized as the first European to set foot in the Americas centuries before Columbus. The proof lies in the excavations at L'Anse aux Meadows in Canada. Harald Fairhair. Harald Fairhair was one of the first legendary names in Norway's history. According to the Icelandic sagas, he was a young king with an ambitious spirit and an untamable ego. After being rejected by a woman who would only marry the king of all Norway, Harald vowed that he would neither cut nor wash his hair until he achieved this feat. And he delivered. He united small kingdoms under his rule with brutality, diplomacy, and war. He became a symbol of the transition from tribal times to a centralized kingdom. His nickname, Fairhair, came after. With the unification complete, he finally cut his long locks in a triumphant ceremony. It was under his rule that many Vikings, discontented with the centralized power, fled to the British Isles, Iceland, and even Greenland, spreading Norse culture everywhere. But did he really exist? Probably. Harald Fairhair appears in various Norwegian sources and sagas written centuries later, like the Heimskringla. Despite much idealization, he may have been inspired by a real ruler who began the centralization of Norway around the 9th century. Uhtred of Bebbanburg Uhtred, the protagonist of the series The Last Kingdom and Bernard Cornwell's books, is a fictional character, but his story is not pure invention. He is a nobleman from Northumbria, captured by Vikings as a child. Raised as one of them, he grows up amidst battles, betrayals, and broken alliances. Throughout his life, he tries to reclaim his ancestral home, the fortress of Bebbanburg, now Bamburgh Castle in England. Facing both the Saxons and the Norse, he lives in a perpetual dilemma: fight for his own people or for those who raised him. Although there was no historical Uhtred with this exact life story, a real Uhtred of Bebbanburg did exist, an Anglo-Saxon nobleman from the 10th century, mentioned in historical records. Bernard Cornwell used this name as inspiration to create a character who embodies the conflict between the Saxon and Viking cultures. So, did Uhtred really exist? Not in the way the series shows, but he was inspired by a real figure and represents a very plausible historical context, that of Saxons living under strong Norse influence during the Viking invasions. Harald Hardrada. Harald was raised to be a warrior. He fought as a mercenary in the army of the Byzantine Empire, where he grew rich and famous. When he returned to Norway, he became king. In 1066, he tried to conquer England, taking advantage of a power vacuum, but he met fierce resistance at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Harold was killed, and his death also marked the end of the Viking Age. Did he really exist? Yes. Harald Hardrada is one of the most well-documented figures in Norse history. His death symbolically marks the end of the great Viking invasions. They weren't just conquerors, they were king, warriors, legends. Ragnar lit the flame. His sons and heirs spread the fire across all of Europe. From the fields of England to the shores of America, the roar of the Vikings echoed throughout the world.